Before we get started with this video, I just want to say that yes, there are multiple sides to every story, but there are times when things are just really one-sided, and there are times when things are just as clear as they come to us. And with this documentary, it is very apparent that this woman, despite the fact that, yes, kids can be unruly and kids can be wild and loud and somewhat unnecessary, this woman was not only psychotic, but cruel, heartless, and above all, racist. We'll get more into that as we get into the video, but I just want to start this off by saying that, yes, I do have my personal opinions about everything that happened and the people involved. I will do my best to make this as objective as possible and be a little bit neutral for the most part, but I will say what I have to say and say my opinion as well. And if you don't agree or you have a problem with it, that is perfectly fine, because we are human beings. We are allowed to disagree, and we can agree to disagree. Let's get into it. So we're going to get right into this, because this was probably one of the most serious and intense things I have watched this year so far. And what's crazy is I never really heard anything about this, which is sad to say. This is just absolutely crazy, everything that goes on. So starting January 2021 and ending June 2nd, 2023, this situation has been so strung out and blown out of proportion. It was completely unnecessary. So we have Susan Lorincz, who is a resident in Ocala, Florida, who rents a space, and there's Ajike Owens, who lives across the street from her, and basically these kids, AJ's kids, along with the other neighborhood kids, they just play like kids will be kids. I did the same thing. We would go outside. We would go to like an open area that wasn't necessarily owned by anybody. And if we happened to be on an area that was owned by somebody, or somebody told us that, hey, stop playing on their yard, we would, kids would be snicker a little bit. They wouldn't be disrespectful. There were some kids that I knew when I was younger that were a little bit disrespectful, but I didn't really hang out with them too much. And anytime it happened, we're like, sorry, sir, sorry, ma'am. So I understand kids will be kids, and I also understand that if the kids are being unruly or people are being loud and unnecessary and you're trying to sleep or you're trying to do things, that it can be annoying, it can be a bit much. But to take things to the level that Susan Lorincz took them was not only unnecessary, but just absolutely insane. So between January 2021 and June 2nd, 2023, there were over a dozen calls to 911 from Susan Lorincz, and as I understand it, AJ and the other neighbors and everything, I don't think they ever called the cops on this woman. As much as she was antagonizing them and whatever the case is, I don't think they ever personally called the cops on her, aside from to call to say that, somebody's been shot, which happened June 2nd, 2023. A fellow resident, Lauren Smith, who lives along the same strip as them, she said to reporters that Susan was just such an angry woman who hated that the kids would constantly be playing, and she would throw racial slurs at the kids and call them all these names. Just seeing the times that the officers would show up to Susan's home. And also, just to go back a bit, I love the fact that this was shot mainly from the cops' body cam footage, so you get the POV. It is absolutely an amazing way to tell the story, push the true narrative of what actually happened, especially from the cops' point of view, which is what a lot of people want to see whenever things happen. And I have to say, not one single time did I see an officer come at a black person wrong. Did I see an officer restrain a black person for any reason? Nor did I see a black person being rude to an officer. I didn't see any of that a lot of people try to push in things nowadays. I say that not to instigate anything, but to praise humanity in this instance, because yes, we all talk about negatives nowadays. We talk about negatives nonstop. We also need to talk about positives, and this actually made me really have a little bit more hope when it came to law enforcement and people in general, because the interactions with the cops and the residents that were getting the cops called on them was one of the best that I've seen ever. They're talking to the kids. They're like, hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Oh, how old are you? You in school? oh, you having fun? They were just talking to them. And the same thing with Susan Lorincz. Even though they knew, you could just hear in the officers' voices, they were annoyed as hell. They're like, okay, we're coming here for nothing. And they knew, but they still had to do their job, and they did their job well. Every single officer that showed up in that documentary, that showed up to Susan Lorincz's home, talked to Ajike's kids, talked to her, talked to the other residents, every single officer that showed up had the utmost amount of respect. They weren't instigating anything. They weren't insinuating anything. They were genuinely curious. They did their job absolutely immaculately, and they are the perfect representation of what law enforcement should be. And I love the fact that it was shot through the body cam footage, because we see them talking to Susan Lorincz, and she's saying how all these kids, they're taunting me, they're laughing at me, they're trying to attack me, I'm threatened, they're stomping all over my signs. First of all, those signs weren't even put there by any landlords or anything. She did those. And when they showed the evidence photos, I don't know about y'all but that watched it, but none of those signs looked like they were stomped on. None of them had footmarks on it, and none of them were trampled. It's so sad when the cops show up and the kids are talking to them and they're asking the kids questions, and all of the kids are talking at once, but it's not annoying. It's that they're like, yo, this lady's crazy. Like, she just keeps yelling at us. She's throwing our skates. This woman literally threw roller skates at these kids and saying, oh yeah, I just tossed it behind me. When multiple reports of people, multiple witnesses are saying, no, she threw the roller skates at them. She throws racial slurs at them. She yells at them. She calls them bastards. Like, the kids, Ajike's kids, are very respectful kids. Like, they were saying that she would call them bastards. One of the kids said, she called me a jack A. Obviously, it means jackass. But it's like, I understand being a little bit annoyed and frustrated with kids playing, as I said earlier in the beginning of the video. But it is not right to talk down to children that way, especially if the children are not actually on your property. Now, I get it. It's a thin line, right? If you look in the documentary, the open space is right there in the middle of two different complexes. So there's another neighbor, a male, who's like, it's not my property. I can't say anything about it. Plus, I don't have a problem with it. It's not his property. It's not her property. They weren't on her property. But at the same time, if it's close enough to her property, then yeah, it could be an issue, right? It could create a problem, because then she would have somewhat of a right to be upset, somewhat of a right to call the cops and be like, hey, look, they're on my property, they're close to my property, whatever the case is. The thing that gets me, and what got my girlfriend too, is that she's calling the cops incessantly. I mean, it is insane how many times she called the cops on these kids just playing football. You know, my girlfriend and I, we were like, okay, well, you know, there's two sides to every story. She does seem like a whack job. She is mean. She is angry. She's annoying. But like, what are these kids actually doing? Like, what are they actually doing? Where are they actually going? And as the documentary went on, I was firmly on the point that it's like, yo, like, she's just being too much. She's being too much. Kids are being kids. And yes, sometimes you'd see on the footage that the kids would be taunting a little bit. But after a while, when you keep getting cops called on you, when you're not doing anything wrong, you get your parents involved, you have your friends' parents involved, other neighbors are involved in corroborating your story as a kid, saying that they're not really doing anything wrong. Like, yeah, they might be close to like where her property is, but they are not actually on her property. They're not doing anything to her. All the stuff that she said that they were doing to her was not true. He was the one that was instigating stuff. She was the one that was being aggressive with them. She was the one like revving up her car and saying that they were trying to steal her car. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Again, I will say this firmly. Yes, there are multiple sides to every story. But I'm sorry, you don't get to come out and flip off kids because they're having fun. You don't get to call these kids the N-word. You don't get to call them bastards. You don't get to do that. And Susan just thought that she couldn't be touched. And this was 100% premeditated, because she was festering. It was building up. And one of the last things was that she took one of the younger kids, Ajike's kids' tablet. And she knew exactly what she was doing when she took that tablet, because it had been 2 years at that point. AJ probably I told my girlfriend, I was like, she probably got home from work. She's exhausted. She's over it. She's tired of her kids getting messed with. She's tired of this lady bothering them. So she did what any mother would do, especially a frustrated mother. She went over there and knocked on the door and was like, yo, what's going on? Honestly, I think she was just waiting for her to do that, so she could just shoot her through the door. How is it that you make a call at 8:55 and then it's done at 8:59, And then 2 minutes later, there's a call about a gunshot, right? There's a call about somebody getting shot. And you want to sit here in the interrogation room and say, oh, it had been about 10 minutes of interaction. And then before that, it was like 2 or 3 minutes. And nobody believed her from the start. And I love that about these people. Nobody believed it. The detectives in the room, the one guy's like, so hold on. So you said it was about 10 to 15 minutes or 10 to 12 minutes. And then you said it was like 2-3 minutes. But the call was made at 8:55 and ended at 8:59. And then the call came in at 9:01. About somebody being shot. So that's a 2-minute span from when you ended the phone call to when you shot her. There's so many holes in her story. It is crazy. It is insane. And she thought that because she was white, she would get away with it. The only reason I'm saying anything at all about race is because she said something about race to these kids. She's the one that keeps talking about how they're black and keeps using the N-word and talking about this isn't the Underground Railroad. Are you kidding me? One of the neighbors in the documentary said that. She's like, oh, she tells the kids how this isn't the Underground Railroad or something. It's like, what is wrong with you? Why? What possesses you to be like this? I don't understand it. And it's crazy because this woman, Ajike Owens, lost her life being a mother. It's crazy. She lost her life over a tablet. She lost her life over her kids and the neighborhood kids playing and having a good time, not getting into trouble, not going out and selling drugs, not going out and stealing cars, not going out and robbing stores. They were there playing, having a good time, being good kids. Yeah, they might have been rowdy a little bit. They might have been a little loud. But as the officer said, it was in the beginning, like the first 30 minutes. He's like, I'd rather y'all be out here playing and making a lot of noise than going out and stealing cars, getting in trouble, committing murder, committing theft. These kids are actually just having a good time with each other. And this woman's acting like they're criminals. It's just so sad that this woman, Ajike Owens, lost her life because of some psychotic, racist, angry, annoying, lonely woman. What a joke. What a joke of a human being. It is just so sad. So she was finally convicted guilty of manslaughter with a firearm in August of 2024. She got sentenced to 25 years in prison. I mean, I'm, not trying to be negative, but I don't think that she's gonna be able to finish out her sentence because she might not make it. But I'm sorry, that is what you get for being a piece of shit and for killing a woman for being a mother because you were harassing her kids and the neighbor kids, and she finally had enough because you took her son's tablet. Like, I can't understand some people's mindsets. And again, like I say, I play devil's advocate. I understand there's multiple sides to every story, but kids being a little bit too loud at times or being a little too rowdy at times, playing outside, not harming anybody, just playing outside, that does not warrant you calling the cops over a dozen times. That does not warrant you waving guns at them. That does not warrant you calling them the N-word or bastards or jackasses and saying that this isn't the Underground Railroad and this isn't a zoo and like threatening them and claiming that they're trying to steal your car when you get in your car and rev up your car. It just doesn't make any sense, man. And one of the main things, I know I've been going off about this, guys. I'm almost done, I promise. One of the main things as well that I liked alongside the officers being so cool and being so genuine, doing their jobs very well, and being so kind-hearted and respectful, along with the residents and the kids being so kind-hearted and respectful to each other, is the fact that all of the neighbors, all of them, every single neighbor they spoke to said the same thing. This woman gets on all the kids. She has a problem with all the kids. She's always angry. She's always yelling at them. There's this, there's that, there's the other thing. You have multiple witnesses, and it's proven throughout the whole documentary that she's lying the entire time, because the neighbors will corroborate the kid's story and other neighbors' stories. They will not corroborate her story because her story is a bunch of poppycock. Rest in peace, Ajike Jötunn Owens. Thank you guys for joining me through this review and this rant, because it's just rough. Just talking about it, it gets me heated because, man, I couldn't believe my eyes when I was watching this thing. It blew me away. You know the drill. Hit that like button and that subscribe button and leave a comment down below. Thanks again for watching, guys. Until the next one.